Hey, Oriana from the Empowered and in Control podcast here. I just wanted to stop in real quick to talk about some common mistakes that we do when talking about domestic abuse or intimate partner violence. A lot of times we ask the very common and reasonable question, why don't they just leave? Well, when we ask that question, we're making a couple of assumptions at least. The first assumption is that they haven't tried. We know that on average it takes 6 to 8 times for a survivor to leave for good, but we don't really talk about why that is. Maybe the person tried to leave and they got turned away from shelter, or maybe they tried to leave, but their family and friends are telling them, well, your partner's good to you, and so you should stay and try to work it out. Maybe their faith leaders are telling them that, it is your duty to submit or to save your marriage, and divorce is a sin. So to say, why don't they just leave, a lot of times assumes that they have not tried. And in some cases, they are encouraged to believe that they need to work it out. And so they do end up going back. So just imagine being put in that situation where you are trying to leave, you are thinking that this is not a good relationship for you to be in, but then from different places, different angles, different people in your life, you're hearing that maybe you should try to work it out. Then you're going to start second guessing yourself, in addition to already having been second guessing yourself, and you may make the decision to go back or to stay. The second assumption that we're making when we ask that question is that the abuse is going to end once they leave. Well, we know that's not true. The most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence is when they leave. And there's some studies that show that even up to 2 years after leaving, the person is not out of danger. But even in the news, we've seen that with certain cases, it could be 10 years later that an abusive ex comes back and kills their partner. So we can't assume that just because someone is removing themselves from the situation that they're going to be safe. There has to be safety planning. There has to be a support system in place. There have to be financial resources. Leaving is not an event. It's a process. It's something that has to happen while taking a lot of things into consideration, because post-separation abuse comes in a lot of forms. Think about the times that people are trying to co-parent and they're going to drop their kid off with the abusive ex. Well, a lot of times that abusive ex uses the child as an excuse to be able to see that person, to continue to stalk and harass that person. Or litigation abuse, where they continually have people go to court for frivolous lawsuits or court dates just to drain their financial resources. That's still abuse, and it's happening after separation. So I think when we ask that question, we're not taking some things into consideration about how complicated it really is. And so I encourage you to just know what the resources are to be able to support survivors, help them get connected with a local advocate and with the resources that are available to them, and address what the barriers are. Ask them, what are the things that are going to be a problem if you leave this situation, so that you guys can think through it together and an advocate can help with that safety planning given all of the circumstances, because no two cases are the same. But I just wanted to give you guys that quick tip on some common mistakes that we typically make when we talk about domestic abuse, and hopefully that was helpful. Bye, y'all.